Recording.
Welcome to Speaking from the Heart. For those of you who are expecting your usual awesome host, Molly Reed. Well, I'm her sub tonight. I'm Matt Reed. By night, I'm the PR director for Who We Play For, the nonprofit that provides heart screenings to athletes in order to prevent cardiac arrest and advocates for policies on all of that. And by day, I am a communication strategist for Curly and Pin Public Relations Management in Maitland, and I want to thank the firm for supporting public interest content like this. Our guest tonight really needs no introduction. It's Molly Reed.
Yay.
Now, Molly Reed has, as you know, by night is the host of Playing from the Heart. She's the media doctor for Who We Play For, and by day she is an Emmy Award-winning television reporter in Dayton, Ohio, and she will tell you which stations those are because I always forget the call letters. For the past 13 episodes or so, Molly, am I right? Maybe a half dozen or maybe a dozen or more.
Yeah.
Molly, much like a documentary filmmaker would dive into an issue, has really tackled this issue of sudden cardiac arrest and the solutions to it from pretty much every angle. She's talked to the victims, she's talked to the healthcare providers, the policymakers, which just might make Molly Reed one of the nation's most knowledgeable people on this issue and its solutions. So Molly, welcome tonight to Speak from the Heart.
Thanks. I know it's exciting. It's weird to be on this side, even during the workday. I'm not on this side of the show or whatever. You know, I'm always doing the interviews and never being interviewed. So this is going to be a whole new experience, also for me.
You know what's even weirder?
Yeah.
Here, our first question for you is: will you please explain our relationship?
Oh, you are my father. So.
I see. My next question for you is specifically which parent has had the greatest impact on your Emmy-winning journalism career?
Mom got me to where I am as far as college and making sure that, you know, I had a hard work ethic, but I did have some good shoes to fill in as far as journalism with you. So you guys both did a great job raising me. I am one spectacular person.
So the answer is your mother.
I'm in here and hear this.
She's behind my computer right now, confirming the answer. She can hear it. We're good.
Absolutely.
I get it. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So Molly, the main thing that I wanted to talk to you about tonight is based on your experience interviewing and talking to so many people, where it is about what you learned and what moved you. So let me hit you up. Let's talk about the top maybe 3 or 4 things that were your takeaways from this series. Tell me what would be one of them. Talk to me about one of the biggest lessons you've taken away from this exploratory series.
So, I mean, through the entire thing so far, I think it's been actually maybe closer to 20 episodes at this point. I've already lost track. Kieran Easton has been keeping track because he's in charge of the social media for it, and he always posts the number it is.
Well, I didn't watch them all. I only started watching after people started tweeting about it. So
exactly. So he has been keeping count. I think it's closer to 20 at this point, and we have talked to everybody from, you know, sudden cardiac arrest victims, their families, their parents, doctors who have been involved with Who We Play For now for years. We had on the Osceola and Brevard County school boards, which was the largest group and panel I think I've ever had to, you know, focus and orchestrate ever in my professional career and with the volunteering here for Who We Play For. So
how many people were on that panel? Because that's your typical office Zoom call.
Yeah.
But trying to get it all into a half an hour of actual focused, you know, video journalism had to be a challenge.
Yeah, the Brevard County one, I think it was 10 to 12 people on. And maybe even more. At that point, we were just kind of like, you know what, who else wants to be on? We were Oprah Winfrey with the cars. You get a car, you get a car. Who wants to be on? Anybody who had made an impact in Brevard County, we wanted on that. So, point of this whole thing, we have interviewed everybody. Not everybody yet, but we've interviewed a lot of people at this point. Some of the biggest takeaways, just for me personally to experience and really understand through this, because I've been involved with Who We Play For a long time, but one of the biggest things that I've realized is how much of a community connection we've created between SCA survivors and their families. If you look at what Sean Sema, most dedicated person I think out there right now, with his daughter Lexi, who had SCA, he's now there anytime a family, one of their kids is out of our heart screenings, if someone gets a heart problem detected and they go into surgery, he's at the hospital. We've created such a community for these people. It's almost like, I hate to say, this sounds putting it like it's more casual, but it's almost like a fraternity for people who have gone through this. And it's just amazing to me. It's sad because this many people have had to go through this, but the fact now that we have helped these people linked up is just amazing. So that's one of the biggest things. Also kind of showing how small the world is. I mean, we're taking people from, Mr. Macron is saying, he met someone in Colorado who, is doing this. Now we have people in Texas, in Washington, PA, everywhere. It's a small world, and we've somehow made it a small world for these people. And then one of the other biggest takeaways is when I first got involved with Who We Play For, and right when Who We Play For started going out, doing these heart screenings, doing portable heart screenings, there was a lot of pushback. A lot of pushback from, just different medical professionals who said, maybe this isn't a trustworthy system. Maybe this isn't working, is this reliable? Is this something that can truly make a difference? And there was a lot of pushback, and Evan and the gang took the charge, and they said, no, this is going to be a thing, basically. And now, so many years later, interviewing all of these doctors, I realize how much of an impact we have made, because now doctors are truly behind what we're doing. There's a lot of people in the medical profession who are behind what we're doing. And it's incredible to see how that has transformed as well, because getting there was not easy, and it wasn't a small task at all. So those are probably the biggest things I've taken away, just hearing stories and how everybody's connected, and just how we have made an impact within the 13 years we've been around. So I think it's pretty cool.
It's fascinating that you would say that it was the community, and what I've seen is an outgrowth of that community to more of a network of caring people. Here in Brevard County, Florida, where Who We Play For started, I think we had, on average about one death from sudden cardiac arrest or traumatic.
Yeah.
Traumatic hospitalization just about every year. And Brevard County became the first county in Florida to pass a policy requiring that all secondary school students receive heart screenings. That was a big job, and providing all of those heart screenings within the first year for, I believe, 6,000 to 8,000 students.
Yeah.
You don't do that alone. It takes good connections and trust and people in the medical community who can step up and help you troubleshoot. You've also interviewed doctors and people on the healthcare side of things. Tell me what you've heard from them at this point that maybe contrasts with what you might have heard early on from people who say, well, there isn't a lot of evidence for requiring this yet.
Yeah.
What have you heard?
Obviously, I think it's no secret. I think when we were first coming out, some of the pushback, I don't even know if a lot of it was scientific based. I think there was some science worries there, but there's no secret. The medical profession is a business, and a lot of it was financial. There was a lot of fear from other organizations and things like that, oh, well, if they're doing this for free, if they're doing this for a super reduced price, there was some pushback about that. And that's not something that anybody wasn't expecting, because, we have a lot of people who are professional businessmen working with us and know how that industry works. So that was something, but I mean, even just interviewing last week, Dr. Ahmed, and he's up in Jacksonville. He, is working with UNF, and he's working with, I think Jacksonville State. And so, he is Jacksonville State or Jacksonville University? Because now
there's Jacksonville University, and I believe the University of North Florida are both in Jacksonville. Two pretty good.
I know, I'm confused though, because Florida State, I knew beat one team this year, and it was Jacksonville something. So
congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. It was all me now. But talking to him even, and seeing how supportive he was behind, how much of an impact this was making, and how much these doctors are now jumping to get behind what we're doing. I mean, we have him, we have, a plethora of amazing doctors on our board now who are jumping behind what they're doing. They're realizing, it's not about the finances and this and the industry and stuff. It's about truly saving as many lives. And something I thought that was really interesting, that even Dr. Ahmed was saying last week was, it's not about the numbers. It's truly not about the numbers of the people. It's the impact it's creating on the lives you are screening. And, if you that put it all in perspective, because it's like, yeah, we do want to try to rack up some numbers and show, this is how many hearts we're screening. But he was like, slow down and look at the people that you are and what you have done. And, just keep going with that. It's not about stats and numbers and stuff like that, as much as it's important, but it's not all about that. And it's about really having an impact on the lives you are touching. And I think we're doing a phenomenal job with that. And the group, everybody who works for Who We Play For and is working with the organization, whether it be the people who are doing the hard screenings, the doctors, as we've been talking about, building this network, I think we're making an impact. And that's what these doctors are really seeing. And that's why they're getting behind us too, I think.
That's interesting you should say that, because I think it was as recently as early 2019 here in Brevard County, where I served, as you know, as the communication director at Brevard Public Schools. I watched that policy get developed from the inside, and it was pretty striking how when people who were not healthcare professionals were reaching out for information to try to form a policy and recommend in their mind whether they should do it or not.
Yeah.
There was at the time, some absence of massive statistically empirical studies saying do this. A little bit of an absence of groups like the American Heart Association or other major organizations saying, yes, by God, we endorse this, everybody should do it. But it was really just an absence of information and endorsements, not an opposition to it. Mm. But as the months went on and students continued to get their heart screened in order to participate in sports, I believe it was by spring about 8,000 students, you saw trained cardiologists reading those results and rendering decision after decision after decision, or really advice after advice to privately to families that you got an issue here. We found something in the test. You need to go get checked out by your doctor. And lo and behold, I believe something like 40 students in Brevard in the first year were flagged as being at high risk. 13 students were deemed to have some kind of life-threatening, potentially heart condition, and I think 6 or 7 underwent surgery or treatment to correct a serious problem and allow them to either play or just get on with life in a safe way. So it's pretty clear that this policy very likely saved lives. It's also very clear that trained cardiologists, reading thousands of results, found a significant number of heart screenings. That seems like evidence that is going to count towards something here in the very, very near future.
Yeah, no, I think it will. And I think, our goal is to keep going with the school districts. And, we have Brevard, we have Osceola under our belt now. And, those are huge gets because they're massive school districts, not just in the state of Florida, but in the country. And I think having those numbers that you were just discussing, and going and talking to other school districts and saying, look, we're doing this in Osceola, we're doing this in Brevard, this is how many lives we've saved, this is what we've been doing, and having these doctors behind us too, and that information and statistics, I think we're going to be able to get a lot more under our belt.
What would you think about a different type of organization besides a school district, say the AAU? Mm-hmm. Requiring, say, all basketball players or track athletes to get their hearts checked before participating in their sanctioned sports. They haven't done that yet, to be clear, but based on the interviews that you've done and some of the perspective that you've gained, what would you think of that?
I think it's a smart move, obviously, but I think when you think about it too, AAU, we did it, obviously competitive sports, things like that. When we're getting the high school athletes, we're getting more. I think we are getting more students, people, bodies basically coming through. When you're getting the AAU, you're getting some of the most competitive athletes though. And these are the people who are willing to give up, as you guys did, every weekend, driving to Orlando, going to volleyball tournaments as you did with me. But these are some of the people who are really competitive athletes, and they're not just playing, one football game a week. They're not doing this. They're going for weekends, week-long tournaments where they're pushing their bodies harder than a lot of other athletes at their age. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, if you're going to require this much out of them already strenuously and this much, and you're paying and you're doing all this, it only makes sense for the AAU and for all club sports to really require this as part of the physical to be able to engage in the sports. I mean, it's AAU, you're giving a lot of your time as a high school, middle school, even elementary school player and family all together, that it's like, it only makes sense. I think it would be smart, and I think that would have an impact on some of our, most competitive athletes and getting just everybody covered from all bases.
Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about another dimension of your interviews, and those were some of the pretty amazing stories from people who suffered sudden cardiac arrest themselves, maybe came back from the dead. There were people that were coaches who had to experience somebody collapsing in their arms, and I saw one move to tears on this program. Doctors who have committed themselves to doing this, not for the kind of money that they might make, from, say, working for a drug company or something like that, but they're motivated and committed. Tell me about some of the stories that moved you most.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that I've been able to see, and I hope other people have been able to see from this, is, for example, getting involved with who we played for, I met a lot of parents who lost kids. I went to Parent Heart Watch Conference, and they do have some survivors, but you hear a lot from parents who are trying to now make a difference because they lost kids. So through this series, we've been able to talk to a lot of survivors. And obviously that gives a whole new perspective of what was going on with you, just getting the breakdown, what happened. And so, I was talking to, Lexi Sema and Sean Sema, hearing both sides of their stories about what happened. Lexi's running at the gym and doesn't even remember going to the gym. Like she collapses on the treadmill or whatever, and then they all have to go to the hospital, find out there's a heart condition. She just had sudden cardiac arrest, everything like that. And then talking to like Xavier and Maddie, kind of similar but different ways and things. Just everybody's had such a unique story about how it happened to them. And it's just been really interesting to hear from the survivors, and just how now them and their families are now who we play for family. They're working with the organization. Xavier's mom is one of the what we're calling agents for change. So we have this whole sector that we're doing with who we play for. We have several people who are working as an agent for change, and they are going out and they're working with families. They are also helping us push for legislation, just different things, because they know how much this hurt their own family and how scary it could have been and how much worse it possibly could have been. So that's probably been the most like inspiring. It's just seeing, and I know I keep harping on it, but just watching from interview to interview, people I didn't think knew each other, or know each other. And I was like, this is a weird web. It's getting weird, but we've talked to so many people. I've talked to athletes, professional athletes and stuff too. And it's just been interesting to really see how it's all come together. And, even like Xavier and Maddie, when I talk to them, they're now doing all this work as students in college and, trying to create a college club for who we play for. They're now doing heart screenings and they're out here now doing this. So we've created this whole network of people who are out there. And it's just been really interesting to see how one person who I interview knew someone I interviewed 3 weeks ago and how they're helping each other work together, how they were at the hospital with each other. It's just crazy. So it's mind blowing, and it's just been really cool.
It's interesting because those people that you mentioned who suffered sudden cardiac arrest were treated and survived.
Yeah.
Were the people who did not get heart screenings and didn't see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
And here they are advocating for it as a way to help other people not experience the terror and potential tragedy that they did, and then obviously the huge expense of medical bills and all the rest. And if Xavier and his mom are out there watching, hi,
I know. And the other person I definitely have to say was one of those powerful interviews. It was actually, I think, the second interview I ever did was Chai Baker and his story. He was the Oregon,
talk about that.
Yeah, Oregon State player. Had the whole thing happen with sudden cardiac arrest. Is now, I think he's from Tallahassee. If I'm remembering correctly, Chai, sorry. But, it's been so many people. But his story was one of the most powerful and impactful. I think he then went home. He knows other people who have died from sudden cardiac arrest personally. I mean, and now he's out there trying to advocate for it. And his was huge. Just listening to his story, how it affected him, and then how he just knew other people personally who have died from sudden cardiac arrest and collapsed from it. So his story was just so inspirational, and just seeing how, what he's done since then. I think, people get a chance to go back and watch that one too, because that was a really good one where, I personally learned a lot about just how it affected people.
One thing that served as a sad reminder of the impact potentially of COVID-19 on this issue was the recent death, and now it's still a little bit conclusive, of Michael Ojo, former FSU basketball center, both of our favorite basketball players.
Favorite basketball, oh my gosh, I had baby biology, or we called it baby bio, but I had biology with him, and I sat next to him, and he was 7'6", and he would just put his arm on my head because I was as tall as where his arms would be, so I was just his headrest. That guy was a great person.
He was a good I think he was a good 7'1", but he was built like an offensive lineman. and the NFL, a gigantic head and sneakers that looked like they would explode at any second.
Yeah.
And we loved him, but he passed away over the summer playing professional basketball in, I believe, Croatia or Serbia.
Yeah, I think it was.
And the the conclusion was that he had died of sudden cardiac arrest, perhaps exacerbated by a recent bout of COVID-19. Now, you've asked, I believe, the doctor from Jacksonville, maybe one or two others about this. What have you learned about COVID-19 and heart screenings?
Well, one of the things, I interviewed my friend. First of all, I interviewed my friend Caroline, who is also an anchor, and she's also an avid golfer and athlete. And she is in the Youngstown, Ohio market, and she had COVID-19 and ended up in the hospital because she had heart issues and she had heart defects. She didn't have myocarditis, which is one of the big diseases that they're looking at that might be connected. I think it started with a P. I'm not the doctor. I don't know. But, hearing how it affected her, couldn't really breathe, couldn't get her heart rate up. So we saw the personal side of this. But what they're seeing is a lot of these athletes, they are, they get COVID and they might not even have the most severe case of COVID-19. They could just have, your normal cold looking kind of COVID kind of thing, not like really harsh, having to be on the ventilator. These are like all ranges, and they are getting a heart disease called like myocarditis, and it has to be picked up through some sort of heart screening, either an ECG, the blood, kind of drawing and stuff like that. So it's kind of scary because I know there's a lot of athletes. I mean, you look at the University of Florida today. They just had to cancel their game against LSU this weekend because not only did their coach get it, but several players now have COVID. So you're seeing now how many athletes, on the professional and college level and high school are getting this. And talking to these doctors, the big concern right now is these kids can't go back on the field until their heart gets checked out, first of all. I mean, yeah, they can recover from COVID. They cannot show symptoms anymore. They can test negative, but you still got to check the heart because now so many are having these heart issues that it's becoming another step that needs to be taken before they hit the field again. And I've been talking not only to doctors through this, but, through my job, interviewing for the news athletic trainers whose now job it is partly is to get these athletes, ready to get back on the field after COVID. And part of what they're saying is it's a little nerve-wracking if, there isn't a heart screening or something happening, because they even know how scary it's getting and how serious people are taking this as far as the heart conditions linked to COVID. So there's just a lot of information, and the whole thing with COVID is it's unprecedented. I mean, we've had huge diseases. We've had, plenty of major diseases that have gone and swept through the country, but with COVID, this is one of the largest we've seen, and doctors are still trying to figure it out. Symptoms are still changing. Symptoms have been changing throughout the entire thing. People have, started with a cough. Now they're saying it's a cold, and then it's this, it's that. It's all over the place, and they're still trying to find a vaccine. I mean, the whole 9 yards. So there's not a ton of research out yet, and they're just now getting to the research. They're probably now realizing how much more impactful this is, but doctors are saying this needs to be taken seriously because just in case, you don't want to find out the other way.
Right. And I think we're also learning that college campuses, high school campuses are, well, definitely some college campuses, but also high schools are places where, due to the way that the students socialize, are going to be hotbeds. I think I heard a public health official at the University of Indiana say, well, we're okay in the dormitories where our cases are relatively low because we've been able to control things very, very strictly there. But we have an almost 70% infection rate in our Greek system. And, including the athletes and other people who are outgoing on that campus. So you know, the infection rate's going to be high. Athletes are going to be among those people who get infected, and so it seems to stand to reason that it's something to take very seriously, and they ought to get their hearts checked.
Yeah. So hopefully
Now,
people are doing that.
on to my next question, and that is, what is an Emmy Award-winning television reporter in Ohio doing working with jokers like Evan Ernst, Kieran Easton, and Zane?
Oh my gosh.
Gibbs, how did this happen?
Well, how did I get involved? So, must have been my freshman year of college. You know, everybody, well, not everybody, a good amount of people go up to Florida State for college because it's a great place to go. Tallahassee is the most beautiful city on earth. And so, you know, when you got up there, you know, Brevard kids like to stick together a lot. And
The 3-2-1.
yeah, the 3-2-1, got to throw it up. So, you know, just through friends, mutual friends, ended up meeting up with a lot of people from their group, and then met with them. And that heard what was going on, and then they were like, well, let's start a Who We Play For club in Tallahassee and start doing heart screenings in Tallahassee, and get students involved to help with that. So I was one of the founding people of this Who We Play For club at Florida State University, and we went around to Tallahassee schools, did it. We did a massive heart screening at Florida State with students, teachers, athletes, everybody came to come in. And yeah, I mean, Brevard County, no matter where you go, it's going to stick with you. So it was from there. And then we, you know, at the beginning of this pandemic, I've always stayed in touch and tried to help out, and I would jump in with communications and marketing and stuff like that here and there. And then at the beginning of this pandemic, my workload really started slowing down because I'm working from home a lot. And I was like, you know, this is a great opportunity for me to get more involved with Who We Play For. Let's start something. Let's really start blowing this up. Let me use what I can do for PR and communications, journalism, and let's do something big with this. So we were like, well, let's start a weekly video called Speaking From the Heart. And here we are now. But, you know, I think it's done a lot as far as spreading the word about what we're doing, getting more people involved. And I think it's been good. And I think, you know, we're about to start some big capital campaigns and trying to get some fundraisers because the pandemic has been extremely hard for that without being able to do events and stuff. So, you know, I'm just glad that it's something I've been able to stick with. And these are some of my greatest friends, and I get to talk to them every day, and I get to bug the heck out of them, and it's been awesome.
Well, Molly, we're just about out of time. I want to say you've been an okay interview.
Thanks. It's been weird being on this side.
In all seriousness, I want to continue to encourage you to keep going with this. It's not only an inspirational story about how Who We Play For is making a difference in saving lives just about every day across the country. But it's good journalism, Molly, and you've done a very good job opening a lot of our eyes to this issue and showing us not just the medicine, but the human interest stories and the human network that are making this work. So thank you.
Well, it's been fun.
You can have your show back next week.
Thanks for that.
And everybody else who tuned in today, thanks for making me feel at home.
Yeah.
We'll see you right here next week on Playing from the Heart.
Yeah.